Hey y'all. So, yesterday a thought just popped into my head. And whether the Holy Spirit put it there, which I mean it towards kind of the Holy Spirit, because I'm preaching it today and I feel like it needs to be preached. But a thought came in my head of, is everything God's will? And for a moment or a few, it made perfect sense to me. I mean, perfect sense. I mean, and I can I can see what you're thinking right now. You're probably thinking, well, Cody, what about car accidents? What about, what about all this seemingly bad stuff that happens in the world? Well, I can, I can answer that with one thing. Probably not much comfort, but answered with one thing. God can use those for His glory. So, if He could use some for His glory, shouldn't that be considered? Shouldn't that be considered maybe God's will, if not a version of God's will? And that made perfect sense to me. Everything seemed like it was falling into place until I remembered one verse in Scripture. Well, a B verse. Second Peter 3:9. It is, Peter says in a sense, it is not God's will that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. Wow, that just that just counters the argument, because as we know, unfortunately, many people die without the knowledge of Christ each and every day, whether that's by choice or by environment. That's what happened, and it's sad as a wasting, but that's what happened. And you almost want to believe that everything is God's will regardless. And there is some Christians who believe that everything is God's will, and I'm not going to really say, I'm not going to pass judgment on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. What I will say is, sooner or later, if you believe that, you may be confronted with the evilness of your own self and the evilness that you do. And you may have to confront yourself, you may have to act, okay, I just did something that completely contradicted scripture, completely contradicted everything I know God stands for. So is everything is everything God's will? And you'll be confronted with that, and I can tell you that God will reveal Himself to you in maybe the most unlikely ways. God will reveal Himself to you. It it seems easier to be that for people that everything is God's will, because it takes the pressure off of them. We as humans don't have the illusion of free will, but since everything is God's will, it shouldn't really matter what we do. But the problem with that is everything is not God's will. We sometimes we accuse God's will as an excuse. yeah, say if I got an F on a test, or if I cheated on my girlfriend, or I cheated on my boyfriend, if you're a girl maybe. We have to say, oh, it must have been God's will that I got that F. Or it must have been God's will that such and such happened. Anything in the world, because that seemingly makes life easier. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time that we stop using God's word as an excuse. Because as we see in Scripture, and maybe a handful of other times, but I can really only think of one other time, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it wasn't God's will that man should be separated from him. That was our choice. I know it can somewhat be, it can seemingly at first seem easier to believe, oh, everything is God's will. But sooner or later, you get confronted with something that is totally contradictory to God's plan. And then you have to ask yourself the same question I ask myself. Is everything God's will? And I can promise you, just thinking about that question, God won't be angry at you for that. Thinking about something that's how you grow. But we can use that as a pretty good excuse when we want to. And that's one of the most dangerous things, is just believing something because it seems easy. Not really thinking about it, not really rationalizing it. Yeah, and I mean, parts of scripture can be rationalized when I say that. I mean, scripture's supernatural too, but like, you see God and creation, and that can be rationalized in your own mind, really. But guys, I love you. I hope you have a good day. God bless you. I hope you got something out of it. I really enjoy sharing the word with you. I'll see you next week.